when I started the foundation, it was kind of led to it by me having asked politicians, sports administrators for years about what are we doing to grow the game of golf. And you'd get answers, but not satisfactory ones, until one day when I kind of sat back and said, okay, hold on, I keep asking these people, but what am I doing to make a difference? What am I doing to make an impact?
Hello, and welcome to Impact Insiders Sports Edition, the podcast that explores real-life examples of people and organizations that are making an impact in the world of sports. My name is Sean Buck, and I'm a consultant at Relative Impact with a focus on fundraising, sports impact, and nonprofits.
And I'm Andrea Skiepis, an executive assistant at Relative Impact.
My last time on this podcast was as a guest for my work with Ubuntu Football, a nonprofit using football, or soccer, as a tool to holistically develop future leaders in South Africa. This is actually where I met Andrea, and we both have seen the incredible impact sports can make in changing young people's lives, which makes today's episode so exciting as we talk to someone who is doing just that.
We're very proud to welcome OG Molefe to the podcast today. OG is a seasoned South African television presenter and commentator for SuperSport, with over 19 years of experience in the sports industry. He has won multiple Sports Journalist of the Year awards, both nationally and internationally. He has interviewed some incredible sports people, such as Gary Player, Serena Williams, Sir Alex Ferguson, David Beckham, and Mike Tyson, and covered the Tour de France, FIFA World Cup, UEFA Champions League, the Masters, and more. He's definitely a fan of all sports, but has a particular passion for the sport of golf. OG is an anchor for the Professional Golf Sunshine Tour and DP World Tour events in South Africa, and he founded the OG Molefe Foundation, which introduces golf into the lives of children in Soweto and provides them with opportunities for personal growth and career enhancement. Welcome to the podcast, OG.
Thank you so much, Andrea. It's weird when you hear all of that being said back to you, but thank you so much for the invite onto the podcast, and I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's really nice to have you, OG. And you definitely have an impressive resume there. Having, done some research on you and seen all the things that you've gotten up to, which is a lot. We had just a couple kind of almost fast round questions for you, just to start us today. So first is, who has been the most underrated or like non-household name interview that has impacted you the most?
Oh, wow. That's a really good one. You taking me on a long journey here, Sean.
You've done a lot of interviews.
Yeah, I've done countless interviews, but I think there's a guy named Thabang. Considering what we're going to talk about, now, and what he used to do is tried to turn professional in football. And was really good. I used to play back in the day. We used to have a media league. So in the media league, we had different organizations all form part of these teams that because we all always meet at work, we needed a social sort of outlet, and football was an easy way for us to do. So we created this football media league where you'd have teams in television, radio, print, and digital, alongside SAFA, South African Football National Association team. The Premier Soccer League also had a team. The agencies that worked around football also had a team, and would meet on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. So we had a league that ran and also played some cup games. And I met this young man there, Thabang. And Thabang had a dream of turning into a pro footballer, but it never really worked out for him. But he never really let that sort of, kill his dream and passion for the game. And what he did is he started an academy out in Diepsloot. For people who don't know, Diepsloot is probably one of the most poorest areas in our country, in Johannesburg. And what he would do is, literally with the little that he had, he created this academy that he'd coach little kids, help them in their dreams to try and pursue football as a passion, maybe one day as a dream of playing. But for me, it kind of really ignited sort of the self-awareness of what we can kind of give back as people. So not a lot of people know Thabang, but he does some amazing work, and definitely for me, I think that would be one of the most impactful, almost so to say, non-celebrity person I think I've interviewed and done an insert on.
Yeah, that's incredibly special. And I think, as you said, it seems to have inspired the work that you do, which we'll definitely talk about later. Next question would be, who is your dream interview? And I'm gonna let you include people that have passed away and aren't with us anymore. I have a couple for you, but I'm looking for you to surprise me. We'll see.
I probably won't surprise you, but there literally are two interviews that I would really love to do. And I think once I do those, I might just retire. I don't know, but I think I might just retire. One is with Michael Jordan.
Mm,
For
Yes.
me,
there we go.
growing up, as Andrea said, I mean, I have a passion for sports across the board. And I remember growing up, watching the NBA. I got introduced to the NBA when the Chicago Bulls were on that incredible run where Michael Jordan led them to 6 championships. And for me, growing up, I mean, football was my number one passion. That's the sport that I played from probably in my diapers right up until now. I still play social football, but Michael Jordan ignited some passion about basketball that I never had. I mean, at the time in South Africa, I knew no one that played basketball. I've got friends now who've gone on to represent South Africa in basketball, but he kind of ignited that passion. And I remember there was a show done by Rashad Ahmad. I might get his name wrong, but he used to do this show back in the day. And every Saturday, I know I'd sit in front of the TV just look at, the NBA highlights and to see this incredible man lead a group of incredible athletes. But the way Michael just stood out and what he kind of meant to the Chicago Bulls, to the NBA, and just to sports fans across, the world, I guess at the time. For me, that's the one interview. And then the second one, I think, is kind of pretty obvious, and everyone kind of knows that this is my dream and ultimate dream interview, would be one with Tiger Woods. I've come close before, but I think one day it'll happen, and I think once that happens, I might just drop the mic and call it a day.
How was it watching him at the Masters in 2019?
Man, it's that was incredible for me because people would note that I post there and people ask, I've got a tattoo of the Masters logo on my arm,
Mm.
and people think I love that tournament that much that I would actually go on and get that tattooed on my arm. But there's a story and a backstory to it. Is that I was actually introduced to golf by my uncle when I was around 12 years old, and every year we used to just sit up and watch the Masters. So the 97 Masters when Tiger, broke through and won, for us is a memory I'll long, cherish, because I remember we sitting on his couch and watching this incredible scene play out. And then from there, I really grew up wishing that one day I'd be able to attend the Masters. And so fast forward to 2019, just as I joined Supersport, I got a fabulous opportunity to be able to go cover the Masters. But sadly, a week before that's the week leading up to my travels to the US, my uncle actually passed away. And just before he had passed away, I remember he was in a coma for a while, and I'd gone to hospital just to say to him, "You'll never believe where I'm going. I'm going to the Masters." And it was almost kind of like the first time we saw some form of sign of life from my uncle, because he shed a tear while in a coma. And sadly, he passed away the week I was supposed to leave. So I missed his funeral to go to the Masters. But for me to then be there, meet Tiger Woods briefly, it was a very brief moment. And then for him to go on and win the Masters, it was almost like a culmination of such a fantastic dream for me. And so coming back, I actually got that tattoo to kind of put it as an ode to my uncle, but to also say, I was there to watch my favorite golfer of all time win my favorite tournament of all time. And I think at that time, spiritually, I thought my uncle was there with me watching and enjoying it. So it was an incredible experience, one I'll never forget.
Wow. And it shows how sport can mean so much more, the impact that sport actually has on our personal stories as well. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. It's incredible. I think, as I think, Madiba said at the inaugural Laureus Awards, sport really does have the power to change the world. And I absolutely believe in that.
I think that's exactly right. And I've seen you in different interviews and doing interviews. And then also just as you've been talking, I've heard you talk a lot about just the important access in sport has in your life. I think you've seen that through your life, and now it's something that you're trying to emulate for others. Can you just maybe elaborate and share with us what role access has had in the different stepping stones of your life and how that's informed the work you do now?
I think when I set initially in trying to build what is now the OG Molefe Foundation, it took me back to Access to think golf has had such a profound effect, and not just golf, but sport as a whole in my life. And without sport, I think I wouldn't have experienced half the things I've experienced. I would never have met such incredible people. I would not have had opportunities of traveling the world, and all because I had access to sport. Growing up, I remember when we were growing up in Kagiso, it was just at the time when Bakers were introducing Bakers mini cricket. So we got to learn, how to bowl and bat and field at a really early age when we never really had anyone to look up to from the township who we could say, wow, that's a cricketer. That's what I would like to be. So we were given access to learn this new sport. And what it did, especially for mates that I grew up with, is that the really good ones went on to get opportunities, to get scholarships and bursaries. Some even went to study overseas. And had we never been given that access to the sport, those would have never happened. I mean, they'd probably still be in the township loitering and not had the wonderful opportunities that was given to them by learning cricket. The same happened for us in tennis. I mean, I've got friends who are such incredible tennis players. They never kicked on, but what that gave them is just the values that come with playing sport, belonging to a federation, and just, the dedication and everything that it takes to become an incredible sports person. Had we never been introduced to these games, we would probably only just know football, because for us growing up, that was the easiest thing. If we had a ball, we just needed bricks and would, create poles and would play for hours on end. But sports like tennis, cricket, golf in itself, you require a bit more just to get into those sports. And I was fortunate then that my uncle kind of gave me the access to that sport. So at the beginning, he gave me his old set of clubs, and that's how I learned how to play golf and progress through junior teams and playing the sport as well. But if no one had really given me the access into those different sports, I would have never played them. And for my life and how it's panned out, that I went to school to study information technology. But once I started working, I knew very quickly that was never the path meant for me. And when I fell back, so to speak, I fell back to what my passion was, which is sport. And therefore, I relentlessly pursued a career somewhere in sport, even though I kind of knew based on the people that surrounded me that I was probably not the best to become a pro footballer, a pro golfer, or anything else in the sports that I played. But I knew I somehow wanted to be in the sports industry. If at an early age I was never introduced or given access to even play and know the different various types of sports, I wouldn't even be in the job that I am at the moment. So for me, it's really incredible to be able to be afforded the opportunities to then give those sort of same opportunities to youngsters, because I know that if we can just give them a leg up, there's so many incredible opportunities that sport offers, but without them getting access to it, it then becomes impossible for them to start dreaming or even know that they can actually, be in sports industries across various sports, not just as players.
Exactly. You've had a fine balance in your life, and I see it in the OG Molefe Foundation, is that, you've been given access, like, how your uncle gave you access and introduced you to golf, but you've also had to, fight for access to, sports radio, to different steps in your career, and have this like kind of unending passion of emailing everyone, constantly and getting your way into the place that you want to be. So I think, how do you see that kind of playing out in the foundation work as well?
Sean, like I tell people that people always have this thing of people putting them on, and I find it hard. Like people think you just get given stuff, but getting the access also requires a lot of hard work. You speak of emails. I tell people that when I knew this is what I wanted to pursue, relentlessly for 18 months, I used to email the news editor at YFM, a youth radio station in Gauteng that I went on to work for. For 18 months straight, I would send him emails requesting an opportunity for an internship. And for 18 months, he constantly ignored me. I would go to the studios, knock on the windows, try and chat to this guy, and it never happened. And by chance, it happened that, somebody gave me an in. And once I grabbed it, I went on and volunteered at the station for a further 18 months, working 7 days a week for free without getting a cent before I got my first contract. I tell people working for SuperSport was such a dream for me once I'd started in television. But it literally took 10 years of me asking, going for interviews, speaking to people before I got my first opportunity to actually work for SuperSport. So it doesn't come easy even once you've been given access. You still have to put in the work. And I think that's what I kind of want to teach and instill in any kid that kind of walks through the OG Molefe Foundation, is that I can show you what the possibilities are, but I'm hoping as well we can instill in you, the knowledge that it doesn't come easy. You still have to work hard for it. As in any profession, I think if you're lazy about it, you will not, kind of see the successes or benefit or reap the benefits of what, having access into those various industries and sports can give you. So if there's the one thing I really want to teach the kids, is that we can give you a leg up and we can give you an in, but for you to make a success of it, you're really going to have to work hard.
That's incredible. It really, you summed out nicely how access leads to impact. And without access to different organizations, different sports, different opportunities, there can't be more impact. And I found a quote of yours online that really stuck out to me. It said, "If my presence on earth doesn't make an impact, then my absence won't make a difference." And at Relative, our work is very much focused on the value of making an impact. So could you just elaborate a little bit, as a sports industry leader in South Africa, what unique role do you think sports plays in making an impact?
Oh, Andrea, I mean, you only have to look at the history of South African sport to see just how much of an impact sport has for us. Just from, if you go back to, post-liberation, 94, going a year later when the Springboks won the Rugby World Cup in 95, just how that united the country. In 97, the same thing happened. In 2019 as well, like amid all the problems, when sport is great, it kind of helps us forget just for a short moment about the troubles and the tough times that we actually face. And sport definitely has such a great impact. I mean, I speak of opportunities that I know friends have had through sport to be able to go to school. And now they are captains of industry across the country and some even internationally in the world. So I know that sport definitely makes such a great impact if done properly. And for me, that's the lasting thing. When I started the foundation, it was kind of led to it by me having asked politicians, sports administrators for years about what are we doing to grow the game of golf. And you'd get answers, but not satisfactory ones, until one day when I kind of sat back and said, okay, hold on, I keep asking these people, but what am I doing to make a difference? What am I doing to make an impact? I've got access to so many people across this industry that I'm sure if I really put in a little bit of work, I can, build a community of people that can help us make an impact in young people's lives. So I know just how much sport can really change people's lives and trajectories. And if I can then, while I am present, make some sort of a difference, then one day when I am gone, I hope my work will continue and people will say, yes, this guy didn't just use sport for his own successes, but he actually used it to make an impact and a positive impact at that in other people's lives.
I think you're doing that already with the OG Molefe Foundation is doing. And I think, as we've talked, this kind of new phase you're growing into is really exciting. And both Andrea and I have worked in sports impact with Ubuntu football. And we've witnessed a vision go from very small beginnings of, just a small group of kids, and then grow over 13 years into this program with, alumni across the world, with school, with a really strong academy, all of these different aspects. And it's been amazing to watch that growth over the years. And I think as you're in the OG Molefe Foundation now, and as you look towards the future, what is your vision for the next 10 years time for the foundation? And what do you feel like you need to get to that place?
There's a Zulu saying that one of my other uncles used to always say to us as kids, and as kids, maybe you kind of don't take it as seriously as you should. But he would say that indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili. So you ask those who have already walked the journey about the things that they've walked and sort of experienced to help you, guide you, and to get to a certain level of where you want to be once you've grown up. And I think having, being in consultation with you guys and just seeing the great story of what Ubuntu has been able to do, it gives us hope that, we are definitely on the right path and we are doing the right things and taking the right steps to getting to that point where we're making an impact and changing people's lives. And so for me personally, in 10 years' time, I'd like to see the OG Molefe Foundation being able to not only create access and introduce kids to golf, learn all the great values that actually come with playing the sport. But not only that, but be able to actually educate these kids, take them to school, provide them with an opportunity to be able to, they themselves then go out and make a difference in the communities that they come from. So as we begin these small steps, it's great to see what other people have kind of achieved, because it gives you the hope to say, don't give up, you are on the right path. And I think in 10 years, another podcast and saying, geez, guys, look at this kid, Tsepo, that we started with 10 years ago. He's maybe a professional on the Sunshine Tour, or maybe he's not, but Tsepo has been able to become a PGA professional, or that Tandiwe is now running a golf club at Royal Johannesburg and Kensington, that someone else is in club management running something at Sun City and they're working with the Nedbank Golf Challenge, all because we've been able to give them these opportunities. And I think those dreams are possible. And I've seen what golf can do in this country for other people's lives. And I think in 10 years' time, if we take the right steps, we'll be able to take kids to school, watch them become better people, but also just go on and occupy space within the golf industry, because I think it is such a wonderful industry. It is so vast and offers so many opportunities. And it's for us to now try and populate it with the right people while making a difference in their lives. So in 10 years' time, when we sit down, I'd like us to look back and say, we've done well. Where else can we go? But sit back and enjoy the successes and let that inspire us to keep growing as well.
I think that's exactly right. And as I looked into the golf industry in South Africa, we have a population of around 60 million. There's about 160,000 registered golfers, and then this was a couple years ago, but it was above 10 professional golfers in the PGA and playing and touring. And I think those are incredible stats. There's places like within the US that are bigger than us that don't have that. So I think there is talent pool here. I think it's just looking at, of those 11, 13 players that were playing professionally, 9 of them are Afrikaans, white people. So how do we start to shift those numbers and really increase the representation in the sport? And I think what you're doing and the vision you're looking at can help do that, both on the professional levels, but also, like you said, across the different aspects of the sport. I'm excited to see that vision come to life as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really exciting because we know that the talent is there, the enthusiasm is there. It's just for us to now, put the building blocks together and start nudging away at all of those numbers and seeing the difference and seeing the impact. Even for kids, I mean, in townships, it's hard when you say to a kid, you want to become a professional golfer, and you have to look all the way to Tiger Woods, who kind of is not even playing as much as he used to say, can a guy like from a township really become a pro golfer? But I think if we do it correctly, we'll see more and more people kind of taking up space. And therefore, even for the kids 30, 40 years from now, it'll be easy for them to pinpoint to someone that comes from the circumstances and surroundings that they come from, and to say, yes, as if that guy can change their lives in this way using this sport, maybe it's for me as well.
I think it's all about breaking that glass ceiling, and it's there. And I think obviously in South Africa, we have a great example in Siya Kolisi as the rugby captain, and that inspiration that comes from something like that is incredible. And I think it's a knock-on effect. Once one makes it starts to provide inspiration, starts to break away the barriers, and then we see some real change over time.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. I have one last question for you. Back to our fast round or your interview questions. I've seen you do very interesting activities along with your interviews. So I've seen you do a cooking show. I've seen you work out with professional athletes, run races, hike Kilimanjaro, lots of different crazy things. Of all of those activities you've done and been very active in your interviews, what has challenged you the most?
Ooh, there's 3, but I think the biggest one was definitely climbing Kilimanjaro, and it was on the back of me having done a Comrades Marathon, which, I mean, maybe 4 years prior to that, I never even thought I could do. But what it taught me is if you really knuckle down and put your head to it and put in the work, you can almost literally achieve anything you want. Now, if you ask people who've known me all my life, And even to this day, so people who never knew that I've ran 2 Comrades marathons, when I say it, they like, there's absolutely no way. Fortunately for me, there are pictures and medals that prove that I have. So that helps me out. But climbing Kilimanjaro, I thought would be a breeze, but it's actually not even a physical thing about climbing Kili, but it's more a mental challenge than anything else. I think physically most people can do it, but it's mentally when you start running out of oxygen. Do you mentally have the capacity to be able to push on to the next level, to push on, even though your body, with every fiber in your being, is telling you to turn back and go back before you reach that summit? But can you claw beyond the pain, beyond being uncomfortable, beyond the lack of breath, and get to that Uhuru peak? So for me, it kind of juxtaposes with what life is about, is that you'll face certain challenges. Some you might be prepared for, but a lot of them you might not even be prepared for. But are you willing to, knuckle down and go beyond the mental challenges that are presented in front of you? And once you get there, you realize that nothing is really impossible if you put your mind to it. So for me, without a doubt, climbing Kilimanjaro was indeed the toughest one ever.
I'm feeling very inspired. I don't know about you, Andrea.
Definitely. I mean, every time we have a conversation with you, OG, I learn something new, and I'm like, you have done everything, and you carry yourself with so much humility, and just, you're so open to the world. So I'm very, very inspired today. Thank you so much.
An absolute pleasure, guys.
Yeah, I hope that our listeners are inspired as well. And yeah, if you're listening to this in the morning, you go out and attack the day with that fervor that you attacked Kilimanjaro. So OG, thank you so much for this inspiring chat today. We really appreciate your time and the amazing things you're doing in this country, through the world of sports. And we're excited to kind of see what's next.
I really appreciate the time and the opportunity, guys. And I look forward to the incredible work that we'll be doing together going forward.
Exactly. So everyone, we'll include all of the links and the references we discussed today in the episode show notes. This has been Impact Insider Sports Edition, powered by Relative Impact. Subscribe to the podcast to make sure you don't miss future episodes. For more information about Relative Impact and the work we're doing, check out our website and sign up to our newsletter to get updates directly to your inbox. Thanks, everyone.